Greetings! I am Galileo, the head of the DGTalAqualab of Shizuoka University. As you can see from the videos on this channel, mathematical models can help scientists answer very interesting questions. But most biologists I know are not confident in developing mathematical models. Maybe that is also your case. With the tool I'm about to present, you will be able to develop and run mathematical models, whatever your knowledge in coding. When I was an undergraduate student, I was introduced to modeling. And in particular, I was introduced to an alternative to the classical differential equation approach called individual-based model. Individual-based models simulate the action and interaction of autonomous agents to understand the outcome of a system and what governs it. Individual-based models consider the individual's uniqueness, the fact that they interact locally, and their behavior. Being unique implies that agents are usually different from each other with different characteristics such as size, life stage, location, resource reserves, and history. Locally interacting means that agents usually do not interact with all other agents, but only with their neighbors in geographic space. And finally, being autonomous implies that agents act independently of each other and pursue their own objectives. All these features of the simulated agents are important. They lead to the emergence of system dynamics that arise from how the system's individual components interact with and respond to each other and their environment. So IBMs allow to study questions of how a system's behavior arise from and is linked to the characteristics and behaviors of its individual components. To me, this approach was very attractive, but like many scientists or many students in science or in biology, even nowadays, I've never received proper training in coding, preventing me from developing individual-based model. But soon after I discovered individual-based model, I was also introduced to a very cool tool named Mobidyc. Mobidyc stands for Modeling Based on Individual for studying the dynamics of communities. It's a multi-agent simulator for modeling population dynamics. Mobidyc was initiated in 1996 by a French researcher from the INRA named Vincent Ginot. The goal for Mobidyc was to minimize the need for programming skills, support biology-specific concepts, and be friendly to biologists. This project was the support of Vincent Ginot's research, and it was through regular add-ons of numerous functionality that this platform became quite rich and operational in 2002. The platform was presented in a scientific paper published in Ecological Modeling. And here I will present the example of a simple predator-prey model, where you have the predator, the wolf, and the prey will be a goats. But it is a very simple version of a predator-prey model. With such a model, one can, for instance, investigate the question, how long will 10 goats survive if they are trapped in an area where 3 wolves are present? Let's have a look at the simulation. That was pretty fast, right? Now let's have a look at the slow motion. What happens? And let's also look at the answer that Mobidyc can provide. So what we have is we have the goats that are trying to escape from the wolf or chasing the goats, and so they are going as far as they can, but they are trapped most of the time in corners, and they might get caught while they are escaping from the corner of the area. Those two managed pretty well, and actually after 4 months they still managed to survive. In 2023, Mobidyc is still in use for research, although it's mainly by my team. So since 2009, I've developed several models with Mobidyc in collaboration with other researchers. And the first model that I developed in 2009 was an IBM to study the reproduction of tiny planktonic crustacean called copepods. We have also developed a model to study the phenology of the same organism. More recently, I developed a model to evaluate the effect of UVB radiation on copepod production. With some colleagues from Taiwan, France, and US, we developed an individual-based model to study the impact of fisheries on fish spatial distribution. And last year, my student developed a model to estimate the production of live feed at different salinities for aquaculture purpose. Overall, the use of Mobidyc led to 11 scientific papers about different organisms, including zooplankton, fish, harlequin fly, and tackling scientific questions in the field of ecology, biology, ecotoxicology, climate change, marine resource management, and aquaculture. So Mobidyc had a very high potential for expanding the use of individual-based models to conduct scientific research. However, the main developer, Vincent Gino, passed away on January 3rd, 2007, and the platform management stopped due to this dramatic accident. This led to some issues, including a scalability issue. When the numbers of individuals is large, the platform can't run properly. And we have also some update issues, because it's hard to catch up with the updates of the new OS and VisualWorks. For instance, the platform runs on 32-byte version of VisualWorks, a cross-platform implementation of the Smalltalk language. And when models are complicated, or if one wants to test many conditions and record lots of data, one quickly have to face the out-of-memory error message. And this version of VisualWorks cannot run on recent operating systems. It only works on Windows 10 and macOS Mojave. Therefore, you need to have some specific machine dedicated to Mobidyc. I guess we can all agree that this is not practical and long-lasting. Therefore, to face all this issue, I've worked in collaboration with a Japanese researcher from SRA group on the successor of Mobidyc. We called it ReMobidyc. And the goal is to, again, having multi-agent simulation system with the same design rationale, but using modern techniques. So this new Mobidyc, this ReMobidyc, will be built on open source Smalltalk system called Pharo. It's using declarative modeling language for biologists with less programming skills. There is a type checking with measuring units that is new compared to Mobidyc. There is a scalable memory model, also new, and the reproducibility for reviewing and validation is something we focus on, because individual based model use a lot of, you can implement variability, but with ReMobidyc it is possible to use some specific seed that we call of variability, so that you can always reproduce exactly the same model even though you have some variability in it. Pharo is an open source, it's a cross-platform implementation of the classic Smalltalk programming language. And Pharo is a pure object-oriented programming language and powerful environment. It runs on 64-bit machines and on the most recent OS. ReMobidyc looks like that, and so the point is to be able to create some model even though you have few programming skills. And in Mobidyc, the agents are represented by their attributes in here and their tasks. So the tasks are specialized by replacements of pre-existed tasks that are existing here, and the library will increase as we will have more and more models developing. So to move is basically expressed by these equations here. And to having the library will avoid writing the definition from the scratch, and also it will reduce the syntax error. So basically, once the task is selected here, you can specialize it here with the headings, so the direction, and you can specialize with some complicated equation or simple instructions in here. And here we have the speed, and you can notice here that we have 2 kilometers per day. Now the second aspect of Mobidyc is to avoid errors and checking the unit. So here what I did is modifying the unit of the speed. Instead of having a distance per time, I have just a distance, 2 kilometers. And what you can see is everything is in red in this box over there, meaning something is wrong in the formula. So if I adjust it and put again the distance divided by time, in this part turns into black, which means that the formulation is correct. Now you can also notice that I modified the unit. I used 2000 meters per day, and basically ReMobidyc automatically convert everything from and to the International System of Units. Let's have a look at an example. So we do have the same example as previously. So predator-prey model with wolf and goat. And we're going to run it on the file. So using the experimentarium here, you have two options, dry run or on the file. Dry run will not save anything, so it's just to check your model. On the file, you would basically save every single attributes and values and numbers of individuals in the model. So let's have a look at how it goes. So it's on the file, you will have the new windows appearing. There you go. So this is your experimentarium, and you can have a visual map looking at the wolf in red and the goat, the blue triangle. And what I did here is implementing a little bit of variability in the escape process, and we can run many runs at the same time, and it goes really quickly for 4 months. Then we can use the observatory here to basically replay what happened. So this is the first case where we have the first set of variability for the escaping process. Is basically the angle will change a little bit. And it's possible then to look at the simulation at some given time and look at what is happening and what is the difference between the different simulations. Now we can click on this part, which is to look at the data of the population, for instance. So that will lead a population tabular. When you have access to everything you want, all the data, then you can select what you want to have a look at. For instance, here I want to look only at the numbers of goat along the simulation for every run. And we can see that we have some variability, and that can influence how many goats will remain at the end of those 4 months run. We can go on with some more complex model where we can have now plants, consumer and predator model, right? Simulating, for instance, chestnuts on the floor falling from the trees, and we have the white boar, the yellow spot, or basically feeding on it while they are hunted by some wolves. And we can see how this population will vary based on the resource that they have also, because they will die by starvation if they eat everything, if they are too numerous, and so on. So with this type of model, you can study basically the classic population dynamics questions. To conclude, I would like to recommend you to download and install Pharo at the address presented here. The link will be also provided in the description. Then you can go to our ReMobidyc GitHub. The link is also in the description. And we have a package to install ReMobidyc. So it's really simple. And basically we're looking forward to exchanging with you about the model you would like to create. And for more news about the upcoming models built and run with ReMobidyc, please check our website. The link is also in the description. And for more videos, don't forget to subscribe. Cheers.